What is going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. Welcome to another great episode of what? That's right, Medical Sales Live. As usual, I'm a little fashionably late, but it happens. What can I say? You know how it is. The reps understand. They appreciate. They know what it's like. So as always, if you're new to the show, we welcome you live across LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Today's episode, we're gonna talk about a very interesting one: how to change a surgeon's behavior to drive sales and product adoption, right? And I chose this one mainly because, well, let's face it, in our industry, the medical device, MedTech, biotech, pharma industry, whatever you want to call it, we always say that we're in the business of behavior change, right? I agree. The problem, nobody actually understands how to explain behavior change or how it happens or how you actually apply it. I don't know how this is possible, but that's why I'm here, because I went and figured that out. I didn't really figure it out. I had some help. And so I'm going to present a behavior change model from the great BJ Fogg, who runs the behavior change, behavior design and behavior change lab out of Stanford. So every super addictive app, the people went through his program, or at least his lab. He was not intending on that to happen, but he's produced phenomenal work in the world of behavior change. He wrote Tiny Habits and another great book. He's written a lot of great books, and so big fan of him. So I'm going to share that in a moment. But real quick, whether you are on Zoom or over on LinkedIn Live or YouTube, go ahead and drop in the chat, drop in the comments. What city are you joining from? You know how we start this program. I don't get started until I know what city you're joining in from. So please be sure to share it. And looks like my audio is working. So go ahead and drop what city you're joining in from. All right. And so while we do that, I'm going to get straight into the talk, because I'm a little bit late. So I won't waste any time. So over on Zoom, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. And now over on StreamYard, I'm going to share my screen as well. Let's see. We want a window. Nope. We want an entire screen. All right. So let me just make sure that we can see everything. So if you're over on Zoom, let me know if you can see this. All right. You guys give me a second. This is a fun show. But it's I don't have a crew, so okay, so I can see that it's live on LinkedIn. Perfect. Okay. So let's get right into this. Okay. What is behavior change? Okay. Behavior change, the way you need to think about it is exactly what it is, which is changing a behavior. Why? Because you're trying to change somebody's actions. Okay. And this is the formula for it that BJ Fogg has developed, right? Let me find a nice, there we go. Now, here's the formula to actually change surgeon behavior. Now, I'm going to cover different areas of it. This is the Fogg behavior model. Behavior change equals when motivations and ability are met with a prompt at the same moment. Okay. Now, I've added to this formula, right? And I should message BJ Fogg. I'm wondering if he would agree with my formula. But let me break down this entire thing. So here we go. On the x-axis, this is your ability. Over here, it's hard to do. Over here, it's easy to do. Motivation, low motivation, all the way to high motivation. Okay. Now, it's important to understand this model. Why? Because whether you're a medical salesperson or a head of marketing or a CEO, if you're trying to drive product adoption, that involves changing behavior. And when you change a behavior, you're going to elicit a specific action. If you cannot understand and break down formulaically what the hell is going on, right, with the behavior you're trying to change, how the hell do you expect to sell? How do you expect adoption to happen, right? Aside from what most people in this industry do, which is just throwing crap on the wall, right? Knowing this is vital, okay? Now, something that I'm going to go back to for a moment, just to remind you guys, okay? Remember this, Moore's technology adoption curve. The behavior change model should be going hand in hand with this, because again, remember, I always mention it to you guys, right? On this adoption model, whether you're at, let's say, Stryker, Medtronic, or Johnson & Johnson, you introduced a new product, or you're at a startup, you have different adopters sitting at different points of the adoption curve. So a technology enthusiast who can also be seen as a pioneer and innovator, psychologically, they're going to need different things to adopt the product and change their behavior than, let's say, somebody over here. I would argue, okay, so keep this model in mind, that the behavior change model is going to be a little bit easier for the people over here. And the reason why most MedTech companies, or most companies in general, do not take into consideration behavior change is because when they get really good at targeting innovators, right, the super early adopters, the behavior change model is not that necessary all the time, because you have somebody whose level of motivations are so strong that they find a way to adopt. But by the time we get over here to the mass market, to the mainstream market, when behavior change model really matters, we have not utilized the learning curve, right? Because think about it, as a company, as a salesperson, you're supposed to be getting data points and learning about your market as you go up. So when you get to prime time, that's when you scale. This is why this chasm exists. Why does this chasm exist? People forget, like, oh, we're gonna ride up the technology adoption curve, and then we're gonna jump it over into the mainstream market. We're gonna make billions of dollars. No, wrong. If you read Jeffrey Moore's work, the chasm exists because this is where companies die. This is where products die. Why? Because to traverse the chasm, to go from here to there, a lot of things have to happen in the right sequence. Okay? Now, let's go back to this. Okay? So let's break this down. First part of this behavior change model, motivation. Okay, so here we are in the y-axis. Here's low motivation down here, and as you go up, you end up with high motivation. Okay, now, if you have very high motivation, right, but low ability, it becomes frustrating, right? So if somebody's really motivated to do something, right, but they don't have the ability, it's just going to be frustrating. You don't end up with behavior change. You don't end up with product adoption, right? You just have somebody who's super excited, but because they weren't able to adopt the product, they weren't able to change their behavior, they're frustrated. Okay. And the way you should think about motivation, this is my addition to this, right? Individual incentive times social norm. Okay. Individual incentive. What is an individual incentive? Think about getting in shape. The motivation to get in shape is very, very high. The individual incentive, hey, you're going to look good. You're going to feel great. You look sexy, right? Your wife, your husband, or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever you're into is going to find you more attractive. So individual incentive is really high. What about the social norm? Do people support this? Yeah. If you start to go and get in shape, everybody around you can be like, wow, you look great. That's awesome. You're getting in shape. They're going to be very supportive. Let's contrast that with something that is also high in motivation, but the social norm is very low. Let's say I walk into a bank and they happen to be, I don't know, there's a suitcase, there's a bank teller, and for some reason they have a suitcase open with $1 million in it. Okay. And there's a fire alarm, and I don't know, electricity goes out, there's no cameras, and everybody runs out of the building, and this $1 million briefcase is sitting in front of me. My individual incentive to take that briefcase is really high because I'm motivated to have $1 million. However, because of the social norm being so low, which is, it's very much frowned upon in our society here in America to steal, right, millions of dollars, right? It's so strong that it will override my individual incentive. right? So my motivation might be high on some areas, but because of the social norm, right, it goes down. Now, here's a key. This is a key point of psychology and persuasion. If you were to ask which one of these are more important, I would say social norm is important. Why? If we think about our persuasion, for those who are members in my program, what was the S in our class? The R class principles of persuasion. S stands for social proof. Why? Because whatever the tribe rejects, you will reject, because you do not want to be rejected by the tribe. So you're better off having something that's socially acceptable than something that is not socially acceptable and the individual incentive is high. In my opinion, the adoption and the behavior change is too difficult. Okay. Now, let's go to the x-axis, ability. Okay. So for ability, again, see these prompts, which means a nudge, right? The prompts, they fail back here, but when you cross over to here, they succeed. Okay. Ability, I believe, if you broke it down, is ease and opportunity. Okay. So if you're able to do something, right, it's something, again, it's all over. It's very easy to do, but you're not motivated to do it. The prompts to do it are just annoying and distracting. Okay. So for example, if I wanted to, let's say I wanted to get a discount code, right? So I sign up on a website to get a discount code, and all I have to do is click a link, right? It's very easy. My ability to do that's very easy. But my motivations, I'm not interested in doing that right now, but I keep getting prompts from the company like, hey, just click this link to get your discount, and I get 4 or 5 of them. I'm going to get very, very annoyed, because even though it's easy to do, I'm not motivated to do that right now. Okay. Now, if we break down ability, ease, and opportunity, ease is just as it says, like, what's something that's easy to do, right? So for example, let's look back at exercising. Okay. Exercising and getting in shape, the idea is simple, but in practice, it is not easy. It requires discipline, etc., so on and so forth. What about diet pills? This is why pharma, weight loss industry is a multi-billion dollar industry. It's like, I don't know, 10 times bigger than the gym industry. Why? Because the ease is so high. It's so easy. Just take a pill and you'll lose weight, right? Opportunity. What's opportunity? Let's say, again, using the fitness analogy, if I'm motivated to go to the gym, right? So let's say I have really high motivation. The ease is there. Like, let's just say I'm in good shape. I have a trainer and everything, but the closest gym to me is an hour away. My opportunity goes down, right? And you don't end up with behavior change. So again, if we go back and put this entire thing together about how does behavior change work, right? Let me see. I think I might have gotten a question. No. Okay. How does behavior change actually work, right? You need both motivation and ability for it to happen, right? And again, when you have the prompts to change behavior, the combination of high ability, high motivation will put you over the threshold, the activation threshold. That's where you get behavior change. Okay. So when it comes to getting a surgeon to change their behavior, adopt your product, you have to ask yourself, from a motivation standpoint, again, let's go to motivation. Do they have an individual incentive, right? Like, maybe they can be the first adopter of this product. They can make a name for themselves. That's a high individual incentive. But on the social norm side, if it's like a very new procedure, let's say back like 10 years ago when I was doing robotic spine surgery, a lot of surgeons didn't take it seriously. So the social norm wasn't strong, because a lot of surgeons are like, oh, if you're a good surgeon, you don't need a robot, right? So we really had to focus on getting someone with such strong individual incentive. And this comes with the art of finding early adopters, because outside of behavior change, these are the kind of people that can see a vision for the future without seeing, a nice product, right? And again, so if that's our motivation, let's take a look at the ability. Okay. On the ability, right? Are they able to do this? Ease, How easy is it for them to adopt? Are they at a hospital that gives a surgeon a lot of flexibility to decide, like, to try new things, or is it a huge, you know, IDN like HCA or something, right? So then, there might be the opportunity to, adopt certain products because there's budget, etc. But the ease might be so low, right? And the reason why this is so important for you all to understand this is that the better you become at developing frameworks, right? And not everything fits in a framework, by the way, right? There's an art and science to this, right? I'm showing you the science. The art part comes with your experience and your ability to pay attention to the signs, right? Because again, I can tell you right now, every company I've been at, when it came to a great adopter of the product, they didn't all have high motivation, you're never going to get that. It's very hard to find it. If you find it, man, hey, more power to you. That's fantastic, right? But then you have to start understanding, what variables do I have to pull? What levers do I have to work with, right? Once you do that, right, now you understand what you might be lacking. And to translate this even further, yesterday I interviewed a good friend of mine, one of my mentors, Ken Husted, who's been in the capital sales game for a long time, and we talked about the capital sales process. The theme to running a strong capital sales process is what? Knowing the variables you have to work with, right? Because when you know what you have to work with and what you don't have to work with, now you know how to manage it, right? You can't manage something if you don't know what you have, right? I mean, look, when we talk about a sales process and managing it, you can't manage a process that's non-existent. It's like forecasting in a timeline. How are you going to manage a timeline if you don't know what established timeline you have, right? This sounds like very simple things and obvious things, but a lot of salespeople don't do this, right? They do not do it. And it's not their fault completely. I'd say that not all sales leadership and management are at the caliber that I experienced earlier in my career at Mazor Robotics. The Tim Morawskis, the Ken Husteds, Chris Sells, the Tim Prentices of the world. Not everybody's at that caliber, right? So my recommendation to the younger sales professionals is that if you are unfortunately in a company where you don't have direct access to that caliber of leadership, hey, my friends, you got the internet. Go out and start looking for those mentors. Listen to podcasts. I mean, look, shameless plug, the state of MedTech was established for that very reason, which is to bring those kind of leaders to the forefront for you to learn from, right? But you have to go after it like with a club, right? If you want success, if you want to understand these things, you cannot sit back. No company's going to ever teach you this. Forget MedTech. There's not I don't know personally a single SaaS company. That maybe there is one. I'm sure there is. There has to be, right? I want to believe that, but these are the kind of frameworks you have to start understanding. And the more you start to put your sales process. Remember, I keep banging on that. Shout out to Jim Surik, who coined that term. Sales is not an event; it's a process, right? The more you're able to plug it into a process and manage it, the better you are at pulling these levers, right? That's going to make the difference between the people who are the greatest and the people who are just, literally at the will of the market. So with that said, let me stop sharing, and I'm going to come back and let's take some questions. So that's the lesson of the day. Let me stop sharing screen here. All right. Perfect. So let's come back to the questions. And I figured today we have a lot more people today than I was expecting. I figured there might be a lot less people. There's a good amount of people right now. But start of the new quarter, right? But for those who showed up, you get rewarded for this. So let's take some questions. Of course, people in my program who are on the Zoom call, you got a question, either drop it in the chat or go ahead and raise your hand. And at this point, so for some of the new people, I think Kelly was here, Gabe, I see you. For some of the new people, this is you don't have to ask questions about what I just presented. You can ask anything you want. It could be as simple as, hey, can you go look at my profile on LinkedIn? Or, I don't, whatever it is. CEOs, I don't see any of the CEOs because they just started their quarters, so I'm sure they've been busy. So yeah, this is the free for all. So if you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand, or drop it in the chat. And then on LinkedIn and YouTube and Twitter, members of the program get prioritized. But if you get a really good question, like, I'm gonna highlight it. Okay, so let's go over and see. Douglas coming in from Detroit. Hey, Douglas, glad you can join. All right. And for God's sake, people, this is a lot of work. I'm tired. Throw some emojis up, for God's sake. Help me out here. I saw some emojis earlier when I was coming on live. Everybody throws the emojis up like when the music's coming on and everything. But like, at this point, people, I feel like at end of the day, you guys are like sitting back, cracking beers open, and just enjoying the show. Do a little work. Help me out here, All right. Let's see. Questions. Mike Moore coming in from Hermosa Beach. Hey, Mike. All right, we got a good question. Okay. So this is an anonymous question. Okay. So the anonymous question says, Omar. Okay. So I'm gonna leave some details out because I don't want to reveal this person's identity because they revealed it in this question. So let me rephrase this question. So the question is, Omar, if you take what you know about crossing the chasm and combining with what you know about behavior change, where should you focus and why? We're an early stage company. Okay, so I know which company it is. You kind of outed yourselves. Well, anyway, I'm not outing you. So here's what you have to consider. And again, let me add a picture real quick. So we're gonna try and go back here. So here we go. Let me go into presentation mode. All right. So I'm going to go into present. Okay. Here we go. And then there we go. For those who have seizures, I'm so sorry. I should have a disclaimer. So again, the question's about like, how do you combine these two things? How do you think about it? So let's start with the chasm, okay? All right. Whoops. Too many things at once. All right. So with the chasm, here's the thing: whether you're a new product, right, or a new company, okay, always remember this part right here, the innovators, the tech enthusiasts. In my opinion, is there behavior change involved? Yes, absolutely. It's often overcome because of the psychographics that are involved here. And what I mean by psychographics is the psychology behind who is an innovator, a tech enthusiast. These people, they love science projects. They love like new things. They love when things don't work really well. They're going to try it, right? So they like all these things. Okay. So again, you can have situations where the behavior change. Okay. And let me, man. Oh, you know what? I know what I can do. I can, nope. I don't want to do that. Here we go. Trying to get better about using this. There we go. Look at that. Oh, no, that's not what we want. Bingo. There we go. Okay, now, oh, beautiful. Love it. Now I can go back and forth. Okay. And actually, oh, look at this, guys. Look at this. See, you guys need to appreciate the fact that I literally spend money to make the show better. Okay, so I bought this iPad literally just for this. Okay, let's look at the behavior change formula, and let's see if we can do this. Okay, I might be stretching here a bit. Okay, let's see. Let's just do that. You know what's amazing? My view count has just skyrocketed right now, probably because I'm just moving pictures on a screen. Okay. All right. So here's the thing. If we look at this, okay? Again, when you think about behavior change, again, motivation, ability, the people who are here, the tech enthusiasts, okay? You know, I would say that their motivation, okay? Their motivation is so high. It might be like it's like literally off the chart. A tech enthusiast's motivation to adopt a product is so high that even when their ability to do it might be hard to do, they'll do it. So keep in mind, like, yes, this is the threshold, but at some point, this red line is going to get closer and closer to the y-axis, to a point where if your motivation is high enough, even when something's super, super hard to do, hard to adopt all these different things, it's going to happen, right? Similarly, right? The ability, if something is so easy to do and the motivation is so low, at some point the ability to do it is so high that it'll override how low your motivation is, right? So like I'll give you a perfect example. um so when I go into the kitchen, sometimes my wife has like, a little drink of water or something. She'll leave a glass like on the counter, right? It's there. I have like I have zero motivation to take it over to the sink. Okay. Even though it's extremely easy to do. But at some point, like I end up walking by there, and let's say I'm on my way to the sink to take some other dishes. The ability to pick that up and take this is so freaking high, despite how low my motivation is. It just happens, right? That's the mirage. That's the trick that happens here with innovators and tech enthusiasts, because when you find them, this is more of a marketing play here, right? Because in order to find the right adopters here, you have to have a very big signal so that they find you. It's hard to go and find one after another, right? And not all adopters are innovators, by the way. There's surgeons I know, there's customers I know that were super early innovators, adopters for one product, and they were skeptics and laggards for something else, right? It's not that clean and cut, right? Think about yourself when you buy things. I'm sure there are things that you bought where you're technically an early adopter. Maybe something on Instagram you saw, and you like some products. You were like one of the first people to buy it. But then there are other products you buy that you don't buy it unless you know like thousands of people are using it, right? So the mistake that a company makes is that they confuse what happens here to thinking that they've figured out the behavior change that needs to happen. And in my opinion, that's why as you move up this adoption curve, what happens, right? Aside from the chasm, it gets harder and harder, right? Harder and harder. Even when there's mass market or mainstream adoption. I mean, look, for the people who work for Intuitive Surgical, I'm sorry, you're not gonna like this, but this is true. Surgical robotics, statistically, and not just Intuitive. I mentioned Intuitive because they're the market leader. Surgical robotics and soft tissue surgery has been statistically a failure. Why? It's been 2 decades, right? There's all this, supposed clinical evidence and how much better it is and everything. Globally, surgical robotic adoption and usage is still less than 5%. Think about that. Less than 5%. That's like nothing. It's a nothing burger, as Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank would say. It's a nothing burger, right? And the reason why is that just because you've killed it with your adoption here, once you get to the mainstream market, this mainstream market, again, as Jeffrey Moore illustrates in his book, and since I have a lot of young people watching, young professionals, look, let me pull out my copy. I gotta send Jeff a message though, so you can see it. Here it is. Here's my copy of that book. It is beat to death. I need to get a new one actually, because I've just read this so many times. I've marked it up. Read this book and memorize it inside and out, because what you need to understand is that the moment you get over here to the mainstream market, the buying behaviors change. The criteria to sell is higher, not only in terms of the servicing, the product, there's just so many different things. And again, sorry about that. If you don't take time to understand what it takes to change behavior, right? Then you're going to be in a lot of pain and hurt when you get here. This ramp of adoption here, what you need to think about is, what are we learning, right? And let me stop sharing. I'm going to come back now. Stop screen share. Okay. Because essentially, oh, look at that. So another fantastic member of ours. So Maron Gribitz, coming from Tel Aviv. Maron, you don't have to be joining this. I am entertaining this. So Maron's the CEO of a really fascinating company called Inner Cosmos. Is a brain-computer interface company that's tackling a huge issue, which is specifically around depression and anxiety. And Maron, you don't mind me saying this, I believe that they're going to be bigger than Neuralink. So Neuralink is Elon Musk's company. I think Inner Cosmos is doing something really special because they're not implanting the brain; they're going right underneath. Go! If for those who are watching, go check out Maron Gribitz's profile. Go read his articles. He has a great article series on brain-computer interfaces. Really recommend it. So, getting back to the point, when you think about the adoption curve going up, right? And I'll use Maron and Inner Cosmos as an example, right? They just recently implanted in their first patient. They're not going to be fully commercial for a few years now, right? But in this process of adoption, right, there's a learning curve, which is learning, okay, what are the behaviors needed to get this product adopted, right? And again, it's going to change and shift. That framework I showed you, that formula will change and adapt differently for innovators. It's going to change and adapt differently for visionaries and early adopters. It's going to change and adapt when you get to the mainstream market, right? The mistake a company makes, and I think primarily the reason why this happened is A, this is not talked about enough, and B, inside of a company, I mean, look, if I go into a company and I say, who's in charge of figuring out behavior change? Some people might say it's sales, some people might say it's marketing, some people might say it's the product team, right? So when it's not clear who owns the responsibility, you do not have extreme ownership, and obviously then, that's why you end up in this situation. So, all right. So I think I beat that to death. But one of my favorite topics, I want to make sure I cover it, especially now in Q4. So let's see. I'm going to go over to Zoom. Any questions? Nope, I don't see any hands raised. And over to LinkedIn and YouTube and Twitter. Pretty quiet. I see a lot of you guys on, though. At least I can't tell if that number is high from YouTube or Twitter or LinkedIn, but I appreciate it. So, but with that being said, since we don't have any more questions, thank you again for joining live. Apologies again for being late, but sometimes I'm fashionably late. What can I say? And go follow BJ Fogg's formula. Go check out his work. Think about it. Oh, and of course, let me before I forget. For those who might be interested, so I have a medical sales career accelerator, right? So for those of you who are, if you're a sales associate or you just became a rep, if you've been in the industry for less than 3 years, if it's 4, maybe we'll take you. You can apply for this program. It's the same program I gave, it's my main program, except there's going to be a weekly cohort call. I'm going to work very closely with you to really turn you into the best version of yourself professionally and personally. It's going to be discounted because, let's face it, when you're a new rep, when you're an associate, you're not making that much money. So I want to help you guys. But because of this, I'm taking only 10 people. Right now, I've filled 8 seats or 9. So I have a few spots left. I'm interviewing people because you have to apply for this program. I'm interviewing people through the rest of this evening, tomorrow, and then also over the weekend. And so the program will be officially closed up by Sunday. If you have any interest in this, go check the featured section of my profile on LinkedIn. You will see a post about the program. Read about it. If that resonates with you, if you fit the person I describe in there, I want you to go ahead and apply. But also, once you apply and pick your interview time, there will be a link in the notes to watch my automated webinar. You definitely get points for watching that webinar because then you come to the call with a lot more context. So with that being said, I hope you all have a fantastic Q4. For those of you who missed your Q3 targets, don't worry about it. It happens to everybody, okay? And so if you did miss your Q3 quota, maybe you've been feeling a little bit down, maybe even depressed, I recorded a special podcast episode just for you. So go check out the State of MedTech. You'll see the episode. It's episode number 30, okay? So I hope that helps some people. All right. With that being said, I hope you all have a fantastic evening. Get after Q4. Remember, Q4 is a mirage quarter. It's really just 2 months. The moment we hit Thanksgiving, everything's up in the air at that point. From Thanksgiving to the New Year's. Let's just be honest. You got 2 months. So hit it hard, my friends. Get after it. Have a great evening. See you next week.